The sky over Johnson and Row Auto Plaza was the kind of dull gray that looked like it was holding its breath. Salesmen in shiny suits circled the lot like hungry wolves, waiting for their next commission. And across the concrete, an old man in a faded coat slowly stepped onto the dealership grounds. His shoes were worn. His posture is slow but sure. No rush, no fear, just presence. The kind people don't know how to read anymore. He moved gently between the newest luxury models, running his hand lightly along the polished surface of a black sedan. Not inspecting, appreciating, like someone who understood craftsmanship better than price tags. But the salesman watching him didn't see wisdom. He didn't see dignity. He only saw a waste of time. The salesman, Travis Hale, swaggered across the lot with a practiced plastic smile that disappeared the moment he was close enough. "Sir, I'm going to need you to step away from the vehicles," he said sharply. The old man turned slowly, calm as still water. "Is that so?" "Yes," Travis snapped. "We don't allow wandering. These cars are for serious buyers." The old man simply nodded. Not offended, not startled, just seeing. "Perhaps I am a buyer," he murmured. Travis scoffed. "A buyer? You?" He looked him up and down, amused by his own cruelty. "You couldn't afford a second-hand tire off any car in this lot." Employees nearby laughed under their breath. The old man didn't flinch. He simply studied Travis with quiet, unsettling stillness. "Interesting," he said softly. "Yeah, well, we're a premium dealership," Travis continued, chest puffed. "We don't do charity tours, so if you'd kindly move it along." The old man tilted his head slightly. "Tell me," he asked, "is this how you speak to all customers who come here?" Travis smirked. "Only the ones who don't belong here." His voice held disgust, finality, superiority. He pointed toward the exit. "There's the sidewalk, old man. Try the used car lot down the street." The old man looked at him, not angrily, just deeply. A look that made Travis uncomfortable, though he didn't understand why. "Thank you," he said gently, "for showing me who you are." Travis barked a humorless laugh. "Whatever, don't come back." And with a dismissive wave of his hand, he turned his back and strutted off, convinced he'd done something clever. The old man walked away slowly. No shout, no protest, no wounded pride, just a peaceful departure. But inside, something had shifted. Because some mistakes don't show their consequences immediately. Some reveal themselves like thunder, after arrogance has already invited the lightning. The next morning arrived as any other at the dealership. Employees joked in the parking lot. Engines roared as cars were moved to the front display. The manager strutted out sipping coffee, barking at staff. But 5 minutes past opening, everything stopped. 3 black town cars rolled into the dealership. Not flashy sports cars, not noisy SUVs. Luxury, but quiet, controlled, deliberate. The doors opened, and out stepped 3 lawyers and the dealership's owner, looking stunned and tight-lipped. Word spread quickly. "What's happening? Who are they here for? Did someone sue us?" Travis smoothed his tie and hurried outside, desperate to look important. Then he froze. The last town car door opened, and out stepped that same old man. But he did not look like a wanderer anymore. He did not look like a man who didn't belong. He stood with a stillness that was no longer misunderstood. The owner strode toward him first, fast, and shook his hand like a man greeting royalty. Every salesman stared. Every whisper died. And Travis suddenly felt something crawling in his chest. Dread. The owner cleared his throat for all to hear. "Ladies and gentlemen," he announced, This is Mr. Raymond Cole, the man who has just purchased this dealership, effective immediately." Silence collapsed into shock. Even the wind seemed to pause and witness. Raymond looked at Travis, the same calm expression on his face as yesterday, but now there was weight behind it. Recognition, judgment without anger, truth without raising a voice. Travis tried to smile. "This must be a misunderstanding," he stammered. "He was just looking around yesterday." The new owner raised an eyebrow softly. "Indeed," he said, "I was." The dealership staff looked from one man to the other, realization setting in like a slow shattering of glass. "I came to see not your inventory, but your integrity," Mr. Cole continued softly. "Yesterday, you looked at me and assumed value. Not worth, not character, just appearance." He paused. "And today, I get to decide yours." The crowd shifted uneasily. The old man, the new owner, was still gentle, but Travis was visibly shrinking, like arrogance deflated into something small and pathetic. He forced a laugh. I didn't know who you were." "That," Mr. Cole replied quietly, "was the test." The owner who had just sold the dealership turned away, his role finished. But Mr. Cole stayed exactly where he was, gaze never leaving the man who had thrown him out of his own property. "You said I didn't belong here," he said softly. "But I don't think I'm the one who doesn't belong." Travis's breath caught. A hush rolled across the staff. Justice wasn't loud. Justice was precise.
Mr. Cole turned to the watching employees. "Some of you treated me with courtesy," he said, "even when you didn't know who I was. You will all be met individually. Your futures here will reflect your character." Then he turned back to Travis. "As for you," he let the words hang. Not rushed, not emotional, measured. Like a man who holds the final card and knows it. Travis opened his mouth to argue, but before he could speak, Mr. Cole raised a single hand. "Not here," he said calmly. "Not yet. Your consequences begin tomorrow." Everyone stared. Tomorrow? What is coming tomorrow? He stepped past Travis without another glance, and the fallen salesman turned pale, because a man who doesn't shout, a man who doesn't threaten, a man who doesn't need to prove anything, is a man who already owns the ending. And yet, the ending wasn't here. Mr. Cole stopped at the dealership doors, turned slightly, and looked back, not at Travis, but at everyone. This building will change, not its walls, its values. Then his eyes settled back on Travis, briefly, quietly, chillingly. "I learned who you are yesterday. Tomorrow, you will learn who I am." He walked inside. The doors closed behind him, and every employee felt the same shiver. Tomorrow was not forgiveness. Tomorrow was reckoning. The dealership opened under a different kind of silence. Not the sleepy silence of early morning, the watchful silence of people waiting for fate to arrive. Staff moved quickly, but their eyes kept drifting toward the entrance. Nobody was worried about sales. They were worried about judgment. Every door creak sounded like a verdict. Every footstep sounded like a clock. And at 9 a.m. sharp, the glass doors opened. Mr. Cole stepped inside with the same quiet stillness that had unnerved them all the day before. Soft steps, steady breathing, eyes that saw everything without rushing to speak. He didn't walk like a visitor. He walked like the building recognized him. His assistant followed 2 steps behind, holding a digital folder. Today would not be improvisation. Today was deliberate. "Staff to the floor," she announced. No one delayed. No one whispered. They formed a semicircle, like defendants awaiting a judge. But Mr. Cole didn't stand on a podium. He didn't elevate himself. He simply stood among them, equal in position, superior in presence. Then his eyes lifted and locked on Travis. "Step forward." A ripple of unease traveled through the room. Travis obeyed, but his shoulders weren't wide anymore. His voice wasn't sharp. His confidence had molted off him like a dead shell he could no longer wear. He stood there, a man who never imagined he would have to answer to the same stranger he had dismissed like trash. Yet here they were. No shouting, no revenge speech, just stillness and consequence. "You believed you were above me," Mr. Cole said softly. "Today you will learn what true position means." He didn't raise his voice. The room leaned in to hear him. Arrogance draws attention through noise. Authority draws attention through silence. "Yesterday," Mr. Cole continued, "you measured me by appearance, by clothing, by posture, by assumptions." He paused just long enough for the memory to burn again in everyone's mind. "Today, I measure you not by appearance, but by conduct." A few employees shifted. The distinction landed. Travis swallowed. I was wrong," he murmured. "You were," Mr. Cole replied. "But wrong is not the lesson." He took 1 step closer, not in threat, but in clarity. "Unlearned wrongness becomes character. That is what we corrected today." The words hit harder than shouting ever could. Travis braced himself for the word terminated, but Mr. Cole didn't give it. "You expected to be fired," he said gently. "Firing you would spare you from self-awareness. That is not justice." The staff understood instantly. This wasn't punishment. This was a transformation forced through humility. "You will remain here," Mr. Cole continued, "but not as a senior salesman." A collective inhale traveled across the room. "Effective immediately, you will serve as a floor associate. You will greet every customer with dignity, not sales tactics, not filtering by appearance. Character first, transaction second." The humiliation was precise, targeted, surgical. "And every day," Mr. Cole finished, "you will report to me, personally, with a reflection on how you treated people, not how much you sold." There was no applause, there was no cruelty, just truth placed in his hands like a mirror. That was the cut. Not loud, deep. Travis's breath shook in his chest. He wasn't fired. He was exposed. Because ego can recover from unemployment, but it cannot survive accountability. "Return to your duties," Mr. Cole said to the room. The staff dispersed, but no one truly left the moment. They walked away changed, some relieved, some sobered, some quietly afraid to examine themselves. Travis remained standing there for 2 seconds longer, frozen in the disbelief of a man forced to kneel without being touched.
He eventually turned toward the front desk, his new post, and walked slowly, like gravity had thickened. And somewhere behind the tinted glass of the internal office, Mr. Cole watched, not with satisfaction, with measurement. Growth is not witnessed in anger, only in behavior. That was the first beat of justice, but the day had not yet shown its second. Because as customers began to trickle onto the lot, curiosity and rumor hung in the air. Everyone had heard something. Word spreads faster than truth, and now Travis had to live in the gap between reputation and reality. The first customer arrived, an elderly woman, hair pinned neatly, purse clutched gently in her hands. The kind of customer he would have once brushed off without a word. Now, he had to greet her. He hesitated, then forced out the greeting, "Good morning, ma'am. Welcome to Johnson and Rowe." His voice cracked, not from fear of her, but fear of himself. Mr. Cole watched from a distance, not smiling, not approving, just monitoring. Travis stood straighter and forced a service tone. "Is there anything I can help you find today?" The old woman smiled with kind eyes. Already, the lesson had begun. Humility was not a condition, it was a discipline. And for the first time in his career, Travis had to see a customer before he measured them. But while this lesson began on the showroom floor, a second, darker truth was growing in the background. Because the dealership was not merely infected by arrogance. Arrogance had been trained here, cultivated, normalized. Mr. Cole had not discovered the sickness. He had only met its symptoms. And before the day closed, the symptom would reveal its source. The assistant stepped quietly to his side and whispered, "Sir, the preliminary audit team has submitted your internal file package." He gave a slight nod. "Place it on my desk." "Yes, Mr. Cole." Today was not just about Travis. Today was about history catching up to its maker. The next morning at Holloway Industries felt different, although no one could yet name why. It was in the way people paused in their sentences, on the way eyes lingered a little longer than usual when she walked by. A whisper of uncertainty, thin, almost invisible, began settling over Richard's kingdom of arrogance. Evelyn arrived early again. Janitors usually disappeared into walls. But slowly, people were starting to notice her, not because she asked for attention, but because something about her refused invisibility. She didn't chase power, she carried it quietly. She was wiping the fingerprint-glossed glass doors near the executive floor when she overheard voices, sharp, clipped, anxious. "I don't understand how the quarterly audit is behind schedule again," a senior accountant muttered. "Richard changed protocols last minute. He said he doesn't trust lower departments." Evelyn didn't turn her head. She didn't blink. Interesting. Pride leaves fingerprints always. At 8:48 a.m., Richard swept into the building like a self-appointed king. He didn't greet anyone, but everyone, as usual, scrambled to react to him. Doors opened faster, footsteps quickened. Silence trailed behind him like a red carpet. He spotted Evelyn by the lobby column. A smirk curled on his lips. He walked toward her, not out of concern, not out of politeness, but because her existence still annoyed him. "You're still here?" he scoffed. "Most people crumble after one day of learning who's actually in charge."
Evelyn didn't lift her eyes immediately. She cleaned one last streak on the glass, then calmly placed the cloth down. "I don't crumble easily," she replied softly. Richard tilted his head. Because he didn't know what he was looking at, he underestimated it. "You just make sure you know your place here." He leaned forward slightly. "And it isn't anywhere near mine." There it was again, the blind arrogance. He believed hierarchy was proof of worth. He didn't know she owned the hierarchy. Evelyn gave the faintest nod, respectful on the surface, unreadable beneath. But as Richard turned to leave, Linda, the head of HR, stood a few feet away, quietly watching. Her eyes widened the slightest bit, like someone finally connecting a dot she didn't yet know she was holding. Richard stormed upstairs. Evelyn didn't follow, but she didn't need to. She already had everything she needed. His temperament was predictable. No humility, no restraint, no awareness. He thought cruelty was leadership. He thought intimidation was authority. He thought humiliation was discipline. Men like him were always easiest to expose because ego is impatient. Later that morning, the office printer area became another accidental stage. Daniel, the junior staff member with observant eyes, was there fixing paper jams when Evelyn passed by carrying trash bags. He hesitated, then looked at her a second time, like curiosity tugged at him before logic had time to argue. "You're the new janitor, right?" He sounded unsure, nervous, almost gentle. Evelyn turned slightly. "Yes, first week." Daniel looked down at his shoes, hesitated again, then said quietly, "I just wanted to say, yesterday wasn't okay. What Richard did. A lot of us saw it." She didn't smile. She didn't soften. She just listened. And, she asked. Daniel's throat tightened. He swallowed. "And it bothered me," he said, "even if I can't say it out loud yet." Yet. She watched him carefully. There it was, the first crack in the silence culture of the building. The quiet resistance nobody had dared to let breathe before. "Not everyone looked away," she said, almost in a whisper. Daniel blinked, startled, like someone finally connecting a dot she didn't yet know she was holding. Before he could reply, footsteps approached. Sharp heels, arrested breathing. Janet, the office gossip, the woman who fed Richard information like a loyal bird to a wolf. She narrowed her eyes at Daniel, then at Evelyn, not with suspicion, but with envy. Attention bothered her if she wasn't at the center. "You two seem unusually chatty," she dripped, voice sharp like perfume sprayed too strong. Daniel straightened instantly. "I don't care what you were doing." Her stare shifted back to Evelyn. "You should stick to cleaning, not conversations." Evelyn didn't flinch. "I clean what needs to be cleaned." The sentence was innocent, but Janet's expression flickered because something about it didn't feel like a janitor answer. It felt like a warning disguised as nothing. Janet stepped closer, face tightening. "Not everyone likes over-familiar staff." "Noted," Evelyn replied. No defense, no apology. Just a mirror. Janet didn't know why that unsettled her. Predators feel when a hierarchy shift is coming, even before their mind can name it. Across the hall, Linda, still quietly observing from afar, exhaled slowly. She didn't know who Evelyn really was, but she knew one thing instinctively. This was not a woman who broke. This was a woman who measured. And measurements meant judgment was coming. Not tantrums, not outbursts, not revenge. Judgment.
Something in her posture, in her eyes, in her restraint, Evelyn didn't feel like staff. She felt like someone weighing the entire building on a scale only she could see. And Richard was about to discover he weighed far less than he imagined. That afternoon, the building received an unexpected corporate-wide email. Owner visitation scheduled this week. Board observers will accompany. It dropped into inboxes like an earthquake no one saw coming. Richard's office door flew open not 30 seconds later. He barked orders. Panicked phone calls started, ego scrambling to mask fear. The staff moved like stirred water, nervous currents everywhere. And through the chaos, Evelyn continued wiping surfaces, emptying bins, pushing her cart, doing absolutely nothing that resembled a threat, and yet becoming the gravitational pull of every room she stepped into. Richard spotted her again by the elevator, and because he needed to feel larger than his own insecurity, he marched toward her. "When the board arrives," he said sharply, "you keep out of sight. I don't need them seeing useless stuff cluttering the floor." Evelyn looked at him slowly, not wounded, not intimidated, just measuring. "And I don't need distractions," he added, straightening his cufflinks like armor. "I run a top-tier branch. Appearances must match reputation." "Appearances," she repeated softly, like a word she was wrapping in velvet before handing it back to him later, sharpened. He walked away certain he had established control. But what he actually did was sign the final proof of his own blindness. The turning point came a few hours later. Carla, the senior accountant, hurried downstairs with a folder clutched tight to her chest, her face pale. She didn't see Evelyn standing quietly near the corner as she whispered urgently to Linda. $28,000, Carla said, voice trembling. Misallocated funds, signed under Richard's authorization twice. Linda froze. "Are you sure?" Carla nodded. "I've been up all night checking, and that isn't the only irregular—" A sudden shadow fell over them. Richard. He had come looking for control and found two witnesses instead. "What exactly," he said in a slow, dangerous tone, "are you discussing?" Carla stuttered. Linda stepped forward to shield her, but Richard reached out and snatched the folder from Carla's hands. "Unauthorized audit on my numbers?" His eyes turned cold. "You don't review me. I will review you." He tore the summary page out, crumpled it, and tossed it into a lobby bin, as if erasing evidence made the truth disappear. Then he sneered at Carla. "Try that again, and you won't have a desk tomorrow." Carla swallowed a terrified breath. Linda shook her head slowly, like someone silently promising herself that this was the last time she would stand by quietly. Richard turned and came face to face with Evelyn. Not close, just near enough to remind him someone saw. Someone who did not fear him. Someone who remembered. "Pick that up," he snapped at her, gesturing to the paperwork in the bin. Evelyn didn't move right away. She just looked at him, long enough that a hush fell through the lobby. Then she bent down, retrieved the crumpled page, uncrumpled it gently, smoothed the edges, and handed it directly to Linda, not him. It was the smallest act of rebellion, but it landed like thunder. Richard's jaw tightened. "You're getting awfully bold for someone at the bottom of the ladder." Evelyn's voice remained calm, steady, surgical. "Ladders are funny things. Some people don't realize who built them." The silence afterward wasn't empty. It was loaded. His ego heard mockery, but what the room heard was a prophecy.
He stepped closer, inches from her face. "I will make sure you regret speaking to me that way." Evelyn replied, almost whisper soft, "I don't regret the truth, only delays." 2 security officers walked through the lobby just then, pausing mid-stride without knowing why. Energy draws notice before reason can name it. Richard pointed toward the maintenance corridor. "Get out of the main floor and stay there until closing." He needed to punish something, anything, to reassert his crumbling throne. Evelyn held his gaze, unblinking. It was the stare of someone who wasn't suffering from offense. She was recording it. She turned away by choice, not command, and the staff watching knew it. Something had shifted, not loudly, but finally, irreversibly, because the moment he tried to bury her in humiliation, he planted the evidence of his own downfall. That night, after the office emptied and lights dimmed to evening hush, Evelyn stood by the top-floor windows, unseen, unfiltered, looking out over a city she already owned. Tomorrow, she will remove the mask. Tomorrow, the board would walk in thinking they were observing him, not realizing they were being observed by her. Tomorrow, he would learn that the janitor he kept trying to erase was the signature on his contract, the name on his paycheck, the ghost behind every door he thought he controlled. Justice wasn't coming. It was already here, quiet, watching, collecting receipts. She whispered to the empty floor, soft but sharp as a verdict. He thinks the storm is tomorrow. He doesn't know he's already standing in it. And with that, the elevator door chimed behind her. Someone else stepped out. A shadow, a familiar presence. She turned slowly, because the person standing behind her wasn't supposed to know she was the CEO. The elevator doors slid open, and the figure who stepped out was not a board member, not a witness, not another employee passing through. It was Charles Whitmore, senior board director, confidant of the true CEO, and one of the very few people alive who knew her real identity. He paused only a second, long enough to study her work uniform, the mop cart beside her, the soft but unwavering presence in her eyes, and then his shoulders relaxed in silent recognition. "Evening, Evelyn," he said quietly. Not miss, not ma'am, not staff. Evelyn, her real name. The title he didn't say was louder than anything he could have spoken. Your company, your rules, your move. She inclined her head just once. "You're early," he replied, gaze drifting toward Richard's glass office upstairs. "And from what I've already seen, it will be an eventful morning." Evelyn didn't look away from the skyline. "Tomorrow the mask comes off. And when it does," Charles said softly, "his career ends." "No," she corrected, eyes narrowing slightly, "his lesson begins." Because she didn't believe in trophies, she believed in exposure. A downfall means nothing if the person never sees the truth in the mirror. The next morning, 9:03 a.m., board members quietly filled the executive conference room. Linda noticed first the tension, the unfamiliar presence, the sudden shift in hierarchy. She sensed something monumental, but didn't yet know where to place it. Richard strutted in moments later, polished ego leading the way, plastering on a smug PR smile he only wears for power he thinks belongs to him. He didn't greet the board, he performed for them. "Good morning, everyone. As you know, this branch continues to be the top performer in..." The door opened mid-sentence. He lay awake, listening to his heartbeat and replaying images. The janitor carrying trays of coffee, the intern's hopeful face, the frightened eyes he had commanded. Each memory pressed against him like an accusation. Dawn brought a new routine.
Those he had led now communicated without the fear that once bound them. The office was healing. He noticed small changes, a friendly greeting in the break room, a respectful question instead of a curt order. Each ordinary task, making coffee, booking the meeting room, was done by people for each other rather than at his command. He noticed things he had overlooked: family photos on desks, tidy plants by the windows, the hum of printers set to work without anyone shouting. He felt a pang of regret that he had never seen these details before. He felt surplus, a cog no longer needed in the machine. In the weeks that followed, Richard carried on without a title. The company offered him a new position anywhere, but he chose something small: an afternoon shift, cleaning a supply closet and empty meeting rooms. He did it dutifully. The first time he picked up a dust cloth, the plastic felt foreign in his hand. But as he worked, he noticed small things: how dust danced in sunbeams, how it settled quietly on surfaces. He cleaned methodically, and each flick of the cloth felt necessary in a way his old orders never did. These chores were simple and unglamorous, but he realized they were real. For the first time, he understood what honest work without an agenda meant. It did not erase his failures, but it grounded him. He cleaned with care, surprised to find a small satisfaction in each task. Unlike his old orders, each bit of dust he wiped away made a difference that lasted. Richard even reflected on the irony. The man who had once mocked the janitor now found himself doing similar tasks, and for the first time, he felt a strange pride in doing them well. Outside the office, life was strangely ordinary again. Morning silence returned at home. He brewed coffee for himself without glancing at a laptop, and read the local paper while the house was still dim. One weekend, he helped a neighbor fix a leaky faucet, a small kindness that cost nothing but time.
The janitor he mocked was the signature above his termination letter. Outside the conference room doors, staff began hearing whispers ripple outward, fast, electric, unstoppable.
Did you hear? She was the CEO the whole time. He tried to humiliate her. He's being escorted out right now.
A culture that once ran on fear suddenly ran on revelation. Linda exhaled, like someone finally able to breathe again. Daniel didn't cheer. He didn't grin. He just stood straighter. Because justice isn't loud. Justice is correct. Carla wiped her eyes. Janet lowered her gaze. For once, silence serving as consequence. And Richard Hale, former tyrant of Holloway Industries, walked out not as a king, but as a case study. As the doors closed behind him, Evelyn looked over the city once more. The same glass windows she had stood before the night prior. But now she was not incognito. Now she was visible. Now she was named. The building didn't feel heavy anymore. It felt reset. But justice was only step one. Rebuilding came next. And as she walked back toward the conference room to begin restructuring the leadership team, Charles leaned in slightly and asked, "Ready for the next storm?" Evelyn gave a calm, knowing half-smile. This wasn't the storm. This was the clearing of the sky. Please subscribe to my channel for more videos.